Hello, I'm Tom Terry. I'm the president of the board of Ocean Pines Association, and I was elected to the board in 2010.
Hello, I'm John McLaughlin. I'm vice president of the board, and I've been a member since 2008.
I'm Pete Gomsack, and I was elected to the board in 2009, and I'm the treasurer of the organization, and so I'm in my second year on the board.
Hi, I'm Rick Handelman. I was appointed to the board by these gentlemen in 2010.
Hi, I'm Les Purcell. I'm the secretary of the board, and I'm serving my fourth term as we speak.
Hi, I'm Dave Stevens. I was re-elected for my second term in 2010.
And I'm Ray Unger. This is my second term on the board in Ocean Pines.
We sent him the information. I don't know if he's going to call in or not. But we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda for today is fairly short. We have public comment, and we're going to go through MO2, and then we've got a contract executive session to go into. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to add a motion
Okay.
at the request of the Comprehensive Planning Committee. Pass the motion out.
We'll get
Just
that
hold
right
it up.
after.
Hold it up in front of it. Pete, can you see it?
Hold it up in front of the phone. All right. Okay,
You see that, Pete?
Let's not move past public comment first. Okay, public comment.
I had a question.
Yes.
What's the contract that's under discussion?
Fire department.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
My guess was wrong.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, Dave, your motion.
Oh, okay. MO2?
Your motion, let's do that first.
You want, okay.
This is good.
Whichever. Yeah, I move that the board formally, and let me just say in advance that this is at the request of the Comprehensive Planning Committee, to which I am the liaison. I move that the board formally request the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee create a 2012-2022 comprehensive plan for the future growth of the community. The plan purpose is to establish a current and future picture of the community and a framework for long-term board decision-making. The plan is to be provided to the board for its review and possible approval by June 2013. The committee is authorized to obtain voluntary assistance from resources outside the OPA organization and to access internal OPA resources as approved by the general manager. The committee shall have a working budget of $3,000 over the life of the project to cover low-cost expenses such as online services, books, and/or studies deemed necessary for their efforts. Final publication may require separate additional funding with board approval. The committee shall have the authority to contact and communicate with the general public, government resources, residents of Ocean Pines, and or other advisory committee chairs to obtain information via no-cost phone calls, emails, interviews, or accessing their reports and studies. The committee must obtain board approval for utilization of fee-based surveys. While any external input in the structure and content of the plan will be sought, the responsibilities for and the delivery of the content of the final plan to be reviewed and approved shall be the result of committee discussions and decisions. And further, the OPA shall provide the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee with a secure meeting area and workspace for the ongoing display of materials and charts to support the plan development. The intent there is just something that's can't be used by anybody else. It certainly could be a shared room, but it's what, if, probably the others you have used in, it's basically a war room. We want the walls particularly to be able to put up the elements of the plan as it proceeds. Basically, and during the day and whenever, people can come in, comment, do whatever they want, but not take it down yeah. Okay? Do I have a
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
I'd like to chime in.
Sure.
If it's all right. I'm not sure dedicated space to leave, I mean, everything else looks good, and, we have different groups and we have limited space. Leaving, and I understand why it'd be nice to have, I just don't have the room to do that and leave materials up. Other groups are gonna want the same type of thing, and other groups are just equally as important, I think. Dedicating wall space as an example, and I'm assuming whiteboards or whatever it is, it's, planning boards. I think they ought to be taken down at the end of whatever the meetings are, and then put back up during the meeting. Unless you're at a point where it's something you want the public to view, and you're gonna put it up for a week or two to give, allow public come in and see the material for comment later. But just to leave up for an extended period of time when we have limited resources, I don't think that's a wise move.
Well, I'll comment on that. First of all, in terms of the space that we're looking for, we're looking at that back office, and while I understand...
It's over here.
Yeah, I understand Bob's point, but Bob's been GM for a year, and I'm just pointing back to the rearrangement, not to,
Sure.
And everything like that. And to the best of my knowledge, those same pictures are on that wall for that same period of time. I don't think that room is not heavily used, and we're not suggesting that it not be used for other purposes either, but simply. Now, to get to the second point of taking it up and down, the hardest thing to figure out, and I've been with this for some time as an observer, and sometime, get my hands dirty and participate in getting this plan together, is getting enough people together to be able to actually contribute and write and produce on a project of this scope. I can say, without any doubt at all in my mind, 100%, that the way we've been doing it in the past, which is to get individual guys to go off and write their sections individually and contribute, and then meet once a month and sort of go over them, and maybe, is never going to get it done. It will not, absolutely can't. We can stand up and we can have a 4-hour meeting with whiteboards and everything like that, and at the end of the day, we won't get anything. I don't know that this way will work either, except that in my work experience, it's done many, many times. We called it a war room. And I'm sure other people here have too. Basically, the advantage is you get some persistence. That's the point of having it on the walls. Anybody can come in at any time with their section and just, boom, plug it up. and say, okay. For other people to come in at other times and say, oh, here it is. Oh, he wants these charts in here. Oh, you've got this. Now, of course, you all still got to get together and go over it. But that's the point of it. Now, can we do it without that? I just have to, I don't know. Perhaps the committee can come up with some other way to figure it out. But
And we could help with storage or whatever. I'm not trying to be difficult, but June of 2013, that's quite a ways off to have a room dedicated to a particular group with their material.
Well, I think the committee is trying to give itself as much, space as possible. And hopefully, something would be completed before that. But the point of giving storage space isn't the issue. The issue is getting it written. And I think the committee, which meets once a month on Thursdays, and would be glad to get any other input. Members of the media here might have suggestions of how you end up getting But when you've got all volunteers and doing it once a month, I mean, it won't be done. It just won't. So, I don't know. We can work this out perhaps offline, but you have to understand what the point, the purpose is, though. You know, I don't know. It's just my observation that at least in the last year, that wouldn't have had any impact. Now, you may have other plans, though I know Carol's talked to you about this, right?
Yes.
But you may have other plans for the room that we don't know. So, I mean, that, if you do.
Tom, Terry,
Yes,
at some point I'd like to inject
okay,
a comment or two.
sure.
Okay. Having listened to Bob Thompson, I share Bob's concern about dedicated space. And I don't think we ought to have the word dedicated in there. Available is one thing, but dedicated, meaning exclusive use in the context of what you're talking about, I would view that as something we ought not to do.
Hey, Pete, let me just, you don't have this in front of you, I apologize for that, but the word dedicated is not in there.
But it's secure,
Okay.
the wording is,
I thought that was part of the motion.
it's
No, it's
secure meeting area and workspace. I use dedicated just to shorten it, but it's
Okay.
secure meeting and work.
Okay. But anyway, I agree with Bob's concept. In terms of the last comment made, or close to the end, there was 2013 is a long way off. And Dave, you mentioned about plans for that building. We don't know what might become of that building, that space. Indeed, that's part of what probably will be evaluated, between now and certainly 2013. But, so I just am reluctant to be able to agree with dedicating a certain space, have materials constantly up. I just don't think it's a good thing to commit ourselves to that. Second comment relates to funding. There were several references in the motion to monetary amounts, authorizing up to 3,000 and surveys, but I would ask this question. If along the way they determine that it's desirable to have some outside resource for whatever aspect of this plan is desired, my assumption is that they would come to the board and make a request for additional funding.
Yeah, so I understand it.
Yeah. So nothing in the motion would preclude that, correct?
No, as a matter of
No,
fact,
we wouldn't have to go back and amend the motion. There's nothing in the motion, as I heard it, and I may not have heard it correctly, it doesn't acknowledge that beyond the $3,000 that there may be additional requests made. And I'd hate to see some future board have to go back and amend that motion that's already been passed in order to, I think that's a complexity that's probably not.
Actually, Pete, there's a sentence,
Acknowledge that there may be the request for
Welcome to
additional
conference
funding
calls.
beyond the 3,000 based on facts and circumstances.
okay, Dave, why don't you read the last sentence of the second paragraph of the motion? I think that's,
the committee shall have a working budget of $3,000 over the life of the project to cover low-cost expenses such as online services, etc. Oh, the last sentence, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the right long sentence. Final publication may require additional separate funding with board approval. In other words, we get down to the point where, hey, this is really neat, let's publish it, in a, that may
Well,
take some,
hey, Tom.
maybe Copy Central.
What he just read is as I heard it, and it reinforces in my own mind the need for an additional provision there, because it says very clearly that they may come back to the board for publishing expenses, but it doesn't mention, if you just simply inserted in the word, some words along the lines that, or any other expenses that may be encountered along the way. But the way that was read, it was $3,000 is the limit. Oh, and by the way, we recognize the publication is above and beyond that 3,000, and the board must approve that. So I'm looking actually at a little broader acknowledgement that there may be, I don't know, we just don't know what 6 months from now, but if there may be some provision that where they have to hire somebody for $5,000 or $2,000 or $1,500, and if it makes sense, and they would come back to the board just as they would for the publication costs, and yet that's not part of the motion, as is the publication cost item.
Well, I think you're talking about maybe professional editing help or things along that line.
Exactly.
I raised that question to the committee, and the committee's response was they were going to take the responsibility for the editing and content. In other words, this isn't going to be farmed out to a professional comprehensive plan writer and
For 30 grand or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm just talking about, I'm not talking about publication, I'm just talking about some need for some professional services along the way during a 3-year period of time, something other than publication, and maybe beyond the $3,000 limit.
All right, let me suggest to add to the end of that sentence you were reading, Dave, the second to the last in the paragraph. Just add to it, any further funding must be approved by the board.
That's fine.
Okay.
Any further funding must be approved by the board. And the other part of this, when it comes to the building, let me suggest this. I'll just read it. Further, the GM will work with the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee to provide an area and workspace for ongoing display of materials and charts to support plan development. Meaning, they don't necessarily always have the same room to put things up, that you can move them if you have to. That way you're not locking up a room for the next year and a half.
I got you, and the challenge I have is other committees could have similar requests. This is making this committee have, and maybe they need to, I mean, you guys can decide that, but I'm not, in my mind, I'm not sure that's a necessity to have space dedicated with their materials up all the time. I mean, once a month is 12 days a year, and we've got, what, a year and a half?
Well, they're gonna meet a lot more often than once a month once they get into this project. That's the whole issue.
Bob, I can tell you that is not going to happen. I mean, I'm sorry, I've got an awful lot of work experience in projects of developing
I know why you need the
studies like that. And if I could think of another way to make this happen, I would suggest it. But and I don't even know that this way will work. But I think it's our best shot at it, and
I will flex to whatever you guys need on this. I just I think it's
if there is a point in time when the committee when you say, look, I need that stuff off the wall, and I need this, I need to use this room for this purpose now for next weekend. I mean, it's difficult, but it's not impossible to take the stuff down, put it in neat little piles, put it on the side, and then use the room for whatever you want.
But by putting it in a motion, it says that I will provide that space.
No, I didn't. I said you will work with.
Okay.
It doesn't mean the same thing as shall provide. Les, you wanted to say something?
It absolutely requires some give and take between the committee and Bob.
Yeah.
We know for a fact that the auditors use that space, and they're in there for, what, a month?
Yes, a little over this year.
And so, there's going to be some back and forth, for things like that. I don't see the problem, really. I know it's inconvenient to move things around.
Comment to you in a minute, Pete.
Not compared to not getting it done, and there are plenty of meeting spaces in here that are used from time to time. But if you move it from one wall to another wall, and you have to do that, that's fine. And
Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, your language sounded reasonable to me, but then I heard Bob's comment and reaction. So I'm going to ask a question to Bob. Bob, what do you suggest be put in this motion? And as let's just point it out, it is a motion, so we have to be careful about the language you put in there. Bob, what would you suggest?
I would, the motion's fine with the exception of secure space. I mean,
No, I'm sorry. When I say that, I mean, Tom's proposed substitute language about working with the GM.
I got to tell you, Pete, it's still fundamentally providing space for one committee to leave a display of materials up is where I'm hung up a little bit. Again, the board can decide what they want, but we have many committees.
Before I vote on this thing, I want to understand the nature of your concern and.
That's all, just a precedent where a committee can leave materials up for an extended period. That's all. I mean, if the board thinks it's important to do, we'll make it work. I mean,
okay, this is not, absolutely not a special request for one committee. Okay, so that's the whole point of this motion. The point is to embark upon a project.
Again, your proposed substitute language.
Hang on a minute, Pete. Go ahead, Dave.
The point is that we're embarking upon a specific project to develop a specific product for all of Ocean Pines. One committee what we're looking for is board support and management support for that project. It could have been any other committee, it could have been Jim's committee, whoever's committee. It could have been a non-committee or a group that's put together for that purpose. Comprehensive planning obviously has lead in it. I expect that there will be many, and that's in the motion, many other participants in it. And one of the points of doing it this way is to get, other participants, to get Tom to come in and look, who kind of knows a little bit about Ocean Pines, or Joe to come in and look at it and say, this is blah, 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 and make suggestions, hopefully. That's the whole idea behind this. So it's not this committee, you're approving this project, you're approving the need for this product, and you're not giving special consideration to one committee. Take that off the table, it's not happening.
Okay, Pete, this is the way I've worded it. In my mind, it does not require that it always be the same meeting room, but there be a place to display. It says, further, the GM will work with the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee to provide an area and workspace for ongoing display of materials and charts to support the plan development. You need them to move, they move. I mean, it's...
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I read it. If there is an area that's appropriate for a couple of months, that area may change, number one. Number two, it may need to come down for a little bit. That's at the discretion working with the GM. So it doesn't contemplate that it's always up or always in one place. It's got to be flexible, right?
Yes. I don't think there's any issue with that. We understand the circumstances.
Well, then I would be supportive of what Tom has just offered us. I trust an amendment. Although it hadn't been phrased that way.
I don't know, where are we? What? You made an amendment to the motion, or you're offering one. You're forming one.
I'm forming one.
You're
Yeah,
forming one.
we've basically made two amendments to the motion.
Right.
One is at the end of the second to last sentence in the paragraph where it talks about the $3,000, it says, and any further funding must be approved by the board.
Yeah, that was implied.
And then the GM, instead of OPA shall provide, which is kind of a directive, a secure meeting, that's gone, which implies a single place. The GM will work with the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee to provide an area and workspace for ongoing display of materials and charts to support plan development.
Yeah.
If that's a proposed amendment,
That's the amendment.
You understand I still disagree with it, right?
Yeah, I get it. Do I have a second on the amendment? or-
I'll second him.
I offer.
Okay. On the amendment, call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Pete?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No? Call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Aye. Pete?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Motion passed. Okay. On to MO2.
Okay, MO2. You all had, the day after the last meeting, I revised MO2 according to the comments and so forth at the meeting. And we have now only a few areas that are italicized and underlined, for which there were ongoing questions. And I believe the intent was to look at those areas and come back with changes to the, or recommended modifications to it. And I'd rather go right to those.
Actually, I have a series of questions. We can do that, but
Okay,
I've
well,
read this a couple times again last night, and not that I didn't read it before, but I really read it this time since it's the second reading. So let me just ask, can we maybe suspend the rules and let Jim join us up
Yes.
here for this discussion?
I agree.
Okay, Jim, why don't you join us up here? Have a seat. In the amenity defined section, there are two things that, and when I'm reading this, I'm thinking of rules and regulations and, that have to be adhered to and how things are managed. I've got the paths circled and the canals circled. How much?
What page are you on?
I'm looking at number 3, amenity defined.
Thank you.
How much actual control, how much policing can we actually do on the paths in the sense of enforcing what's in this document and the canals itself?
Well, the waterways, we don't have control over.
All they do is really our staff down maintenance department just has a schedule.
Yeah, but this policy is the governing of the use of.
Yeah.
That's why I'm raising the question of,
Waterways are riparian, so you're right, we have no control over the waterways anybody can use.
Tom, can I?
again,
I'm still not sure where you're at. I'm on page 3 of.
Page 2,
Page 2, all right.
item 3. Amenity defined.
Okay,
I'm in
okay.
the right spot.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'm fine, I was on the wrong page.
Yeah, it took me a second.
it's showing parks, swimming pools, and then it lists paths, and then beach club and all that, I
Canals,
understand.
yeah.
Then it lists canals. And I'm just, I put my mind in the sense of having to implement, if you were the general manager of this place, having to implement what's in this document, I want it to be implementable. It's got to be something that he can actually do. And if we don't really have control of the canals per se, the water, I know we put up, it's an issue having to do with whether or not we have the authority to do some of what is listed in here. That's a,
maintain them.
We do some spot dredging.
Yeah, that's the scheduling I was talking about for spot dredging and repairing of any damaged riprap or anything else that we might have to do, but I don't really think there's a problem.
okay. All right. In the next section, overall amenity goals and objectives, it states almost a budgetary directive, the next to the last sentence. Fee-based amenities, providing food and products shall be budgeted separately. I'm not against doing that, but does that need to be in an amenity utilization guideline? Is that a goal or an objective of?
Going back to the water rule, and then I have to think a little bit. We're talking about something that was actually put in under the last board when this was first revised. You have to read the entire context, of course.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know, but didn't memorize it.
And I'm certainly not against the concept of them being budgeted separately, that's not the issue, it's just.
What does that mean, though, budget separate?
Well,
We create separate yacht club, food and beverage, that has a separate tab in the budget book. Is that what we're referring to?
Well, you have to go to the sentence before it. And this sentence was debated and discussed at length
Oh, God, yes.
when the previous board approved this. All association amenities shall be operated in a business-like manner. And just to sort of stamp that thing down, fee-based amenities and those providing food and beverage products and services shall be budgeted separately, which means to say that in the budget, we should be able to identify the revenues and expenses associated with a fee-based amenity such as golf, tennis, and so forth, and aquatics. And I think implied in here was food and, well, it does not implied, and those providing food and beverage, because that's not a fee-based amenity, but it's covered in here. And so that's what it means. It means that, you should be able to identify profit and loss for those things.
And that's been done.
Tom, at the appropriate time, I'd like to comment.
Go ahead.
I think Steve just hit the nail on the head. Fee-based amenities and those that charge will be able to measure P&L. And that's what it says to me. And I don't have any difficulty with it at all. It's a recognition that for those, other amenities that are not fee-based and P&L-oriented, parks and recs or whatever it is, that they're different. But to the extent that you've got a yacht club or a golf operation, we clearly ought to be able to understand what the profit loss of that is, and the only way to do that is to separately both budget it and measure its financial results. So, Tom, I'm not sure what your particular concern is in that language.
Well, we're putting budgetary guidance into an amenity management policy. I'm just,
No, I think
I'm not going to throw my life on a knife here over
We
this.
ought to
I'm
keep
just,
doing exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're already doing it.
The
Yeah.
association
Okay.
can carve out and separately, as part of that budget, certain profit centers, and those profit centers must include the fee-based amenities, and separately. You
Okay.
can't add tennis and golf together and call it tennis and golf. Otherwise, you'd never know whether one was profitable or the other was not. So,
I'm not arguing that
in my
point,
mind, it's
believe
a
me.
very simple concept that each amenity should be measured separately to the extent it's a profit, fee-based amenity, so that you know what the results are. I just don't see any need.
Okay, you don't see any problem with it, okay.
Yeah, I might add to your point, by the way, I think we just heard from the author of that sentence. If my memory serves me. Could be.
Okay.
I don't remember. But
Hey, Steve, I didn't even remember that.
yeah, but
To me, that's just a financial orientation of being accountable,
Yeah.
understanding what it is you're doing.
No,
and
I know.
How would you arrive at the right prices if you didn't understand what
Yeah.
the P&L was?
No, I know, Pete. In addressing Tom's, did I lose my thought, and it's my own fault. Your concern, Tom, was that, why are we addressing fee-based and amenities and talk about budgeting them in an amenity policy? And going back, one of the general intent was, and I think across the board, literally, the board of directors, was to try and, in this version of the amenity policy, to nail down the issues of what an amenity is and, how amenities should be managed, financially managed. That was the key issue.
Fair enough.
That's right.
Fair enough, I'm good. Moving on to the next one, and this one is general use amenities, the definition, classification. All association members and residents who have availability and use of this is the non-fee based, at no charge is what it says. And I want to make sure we're not opening a door here we don't want to open. If somebody wants to have a wedding and they happen to be a resident here, or they want to use a meeting room for a group that they're a member of, I just want to make sure we're not opening a back door here for things like the community center, the country club, the beach club, because this says no charge. It doesn't say no fees, no memberships and all that, it says no charge in the wording. So I just want to make sure we're not opening a door here for residents to go have a wedding at the country club and not have to pay for it, not have to use the space or whatever. Maybe this isn't an issue, but I
don't see.
draw to your attention the words no charge and then a whole list of stuff.
And again, I don't have it in front of me, so isn't there additional language though that talks about that concept of charging fees for events and reservation, that sort of thing?
Yeah, the problem is, Pete,
Somewhere else
that
in the document.
yeah, the problem is in the document, it lists a whole series of amenities, which makes sense that there's no charge for them to some extent, but it also includes food and beverage facilities, community center, country club, beach club, as being a no-charge facility for residents. I just trying to make sure we're
Yeah, I
not,
think, I don't know how the language, but, you know, obviously it's talking about to walk in the door, there's no charge, right?
That's what it's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Doesn't say
The
you-
same access and availability for use for any purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dave
And-
Stevens
and-
party at the
Dave,
beach
I
club.
believe,
Thank you very-
and you would probably know that there is language elsewhere in that resolution that speaks to special events. If somebody wants to have a birthday party or a wedding, isn't there language somewhere else
No.
that speaks to that?
no, there isn't.
No, there isn't,
No, there isn't.
but it doesn't,
Really?
but again, you know,
We understand the intent here in verbal language. I'm looking at the written word here.
well, the written word,
Yes.
I think, is reasonably clear. These are general use amenities for which there are, in general, no associated user fees. And that's true. That's the walk in the door concept. We all can walk in the door.
Right.
And all association members and residents have the same access and availability for use. But that doesn't mean for any use. It just means that they all have the same availability and access. If it's not available, then none of them have it. Association groups and members is only used as a modifier for the previous sentence where they talked about association members, but they're extending that to association-sponsored groups. What we've done all along, no changes,
that's right.
no changes in
I'm not
policy.
suggesting it.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not a matter of the verbal talking about it, it's the wording of the sentences that, I'm just making sure there aren't holes. If the group thinks there aren't holes, we'll move on.
Yeah, your caution is based on our experience in the last couple of years where we have been burned a couple of times.
Yes.
By not having explicit language in particular documents, right?
Correct.
We need to be very careful about documents and what we say and what we don't say. You know, maybe the right thing to do is just simply add a sentence somewhere along the line that covers what it is you're talking about.
Like, or if there is an associated fee with the use of the facility, that they will be paid based on a charge basis.
Well, you have to go to the next section for that, where they talk about
Yeah, the problem is
Fee
that-
base in there.
You can't
For private
really.
purposes or private events will be subject to the appropriate charges and costs. I mean, something like that.
Let me turn to Jim. Jim,
I don't know.
the legalese
Okay.
here that I'm bringing to the table, which I realize is a pain in the neck, but I can't help it. It's just the way it is. We have these facilities listed under the no charge section, and we don't list them again under the fee-based in case there is a fee for them. That is part of the, and I'm not trying to keep anybody from using anything. I'm just trying to make sure we're as tight as we need to be.
I think, having heard you again, I think maybe the right answer is to put a sentence at the end of that no fee-based facilities, a sentence that says private functions or something like that. Private functions will be subject to mutually agreed upon charges.
If I can
Yeah,
make
Jim,
my
go
comment.
ahead.
My thinking is to delete the sentence we're talking about, this association-sponsored groups and approved clubs shall use these facilities at no charge. Delete that and insert some kind of sentence like what Pete is talking about, that there would be a fee for
If there is one, you
special
pay it.
usages of some kind, or will be, or can be, whatever.
Okay.
But my suggestion is delete that sentence and then some kind of a sentence
You have to
similar to what
rewrite the
Pete
entire
is talking
paragraph.
about.
Look at the first sentence of the paragraph, for crying out loud. It specifies what the paragraph is about, which is what most first sentences do. General use amenities are amenities that serve the general membership, and for which there are in general no associated user fees. Okay, so we're talking about a no user fee amenity.
And that's an important concept. Policy.
Which I think you have to keep.
Right, I do too.
Okay, now,
But
Jim,
above and beyond that is something different.
Jim, what do you think?
you just said,
I already tried.
Okay.
delete that.
I see the point of that sentence being a potential problem, or misunderstanding, however you want to phrase it. So get rid of it and then put something else in there if necessary, like Pete is mentioning.
well, I don't know
I'm
what,
not necessarily suggesting the deletion of that, but rather keeping that in there, the general nature of its content and purpose, but then add specifically additional language, additional sentence will cover it, making clear that there's a distinction between that general use of, groups and specific functions that Tom was talking about, weddings and birthday parties, et cetera, to cover that in a separate sentence. The reason I think, and I said it a moment ago, the reason I think the general language of the sentence that appears in there now is important is because there has been some debate from time to time about whether or not there ought to be a charge to the community members for using those things. And we've adopted a policy that says no. Not everybody agrees with that policy. Some would have our members be charged when they use it, the community center, for
Okay,
example.
let me suggest this. At the, below where it says basketball courts, you insert a following sentence that says, however, if there are fees applicable beyond general access, these fees shall be paid.
Tom, with all due respect, I don't think that does it.
Okay?
What we're really talking about is not if there are fees or not fees, we're really talking about private use for private purposes of individuals, right? Or groups.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, it's one thing to be generally playing basketball, and then let's say the basketball team says, if the guys who play basketball, say, oh, we want to have a Christmas party in here, and we want this and we want that. I don't know. It just seems to me that...
well, as a matter of fact, that's exact,
General language is important, but we want, I think in the interest of Tom's comment, to make clear to anybody who might misinterpret it that it doesn't mean you get a free-for-all.
yeah, but you're not, by bringing up bad examples, you're not going to solve the problem. Association-sponsored groups and approved clubs, I mean, there is a process by which they get approved.
Right.
So
I'm not suggesting
they're on the
I'm not
list.
suggesting they should pay for
And
it.
our policy is that they can, if scheduling permitting, get the use of our facilities for free. You can get the male pavilion, or not the male pavilion, the pavilion over there.
Hey,
You can
Dave,
get-
you know what? I'm prepared to say personally that it's acceptable the way it is, given the difficulty of trying. I mean, I would approve the way it is right now.
I think it's okay the way it is. I mean, and I think it's important that association-sponsored be in there, because it's definitely it's something we do
I have no
now.
problem with that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my
No, I didn't
question.
thi- I
My
didn't
question
think
was
so.
aimed more at an individual resident member who decides they want to use one of these facilities, beyond what I would consider general access, general use, meaning I can walk in there and use it. If I want to use it for something beyond that,
Community-approved group.
right, well, it isn't even a group. There's an individual wants to use the facility. The implication of where the document has these things positioned is as if it's free.
It doesn't say it's free for them. It says all association members shall have the same access and availability for use. It doesn't say it's free. Association-sponsored groups and approved clubs use these facilities at no charge. That is free, no charge.
These amenities that serve the general membership and for which there is, in general, no associated user fee.
That's defining what general
That's a
use
user fee.
amenities are. That's defining what general.
Right.
All right. I just,
I think it's all right to wait. A good example
fine.
is me deciding to have the Unger Bowl down here next year rather than Baltimore.
Yeah.
And going to Rex and Parks and say, which field can we use and what's the fee for that day? You know, I would be willing to pay a fee to
I
have a field
understand.
up there.
But this says you don't have
You
to
would be
pay for it.
required to pay a fee, Ray.
Huh?
No, it doesn't.
And that would, not just that you would be willing to pay a fee, you would be required to pay a fee.
Right.
Yes.
See, the difference here is, and this is why I'm raising the issue, when you get to words, we're sitting around this table and there are people saying, well, this is what it means, and I'm reading it saying, that's not how I read it. And to me, you make it very clear by adding a sentence at the end, if there are applicable fees, you have to pay them.
That's what I said before.
Yeah.
Right.
But suppose there's no applicable, we're not talking about fees, are we? How about this? Now I agree with your concept. Fees shall be charged for, you add a sentence that says fees shall be charged, not if there are fees, because somebody says, well, you don't have a fee for a wedding, so, I mean, so instead of saying you have to pay a fee if there is one, rather make the language fees shall be charged in certain cases. I mean, you fill out the language, but fees shall be charged for individual or personal usage for functions, etc., something like that.
Well,
Fees shall be charged.
I think that's I really believe it's a mistake. Tom, let me try this one more time.
Sure.
Reading it to you sentence by sentence. The first sentence in this paragraph is a definition. You know, it's following general use amenities, all in bold type. And it says, these are amenities that serve the general membership and for which there are, in general, no associated user fees. That defines
Keep going.
Yep.
general use amenities. All association members and residents have the same access and availability for use. There is not the word fee in that sentence.
Right.
It doesn't say no fee, it doesn't say some fee. Same act. Association-sponsored groups and approved clubs use these facilities at no charge. And they do, but they've got to be approved by the association, okay? So,
All right, let me ask a question. Bob, you've got to implement this thing. Is it okay the way it is?
I actually,
Dave, are you okay with the current language?
I am okay with the current language.
I'm asking the guy who has to implement this stuff.
So am I.
Bob.
okay, I actually agree with the current language as
Okay.
Mr. Stevens just read. Now, the only concern I have with the list of items is the boat ramp. One of the things that came up, and again, I know this list, like the yacht club was added, but with the boat ramp, one of the possible changes for next year was requiring maybe a sticker and charging resident versus non-resident for access. And by having it in here, I think that, I'm not sure, but I believe as I read it, that would nullify that. That would not allow me to do that. And maybe I'm wrong. Am I misreading it?
Well, once there is also the enforceability, a lot of these things, you know, if somebody goes to the boat ramp, there's not going to be, we're not going to have somebody over there checking them, you know.
No, understood, but the talk was possibly having a example as a sticker that they could put on their trailer denoting whether residents or non-residents using it. You know, you could potentially have a patrol car go through periodically if they don't have the required sticker. And the reason that's come up, I'm not sure that's the right answer. I just need to consider that when we build next year's budget, because we've in the past, and we have some potential other work at the boat ramps that needs to be done. Should that just be borne by our residents, or should some of that cost be passed on to all those that use it? And if indeed it is all those that use it, how would we do it? And that's an option to put have them come in and register to use the ramp and pay a small fee for it, i.e. non-residents.
Well, you wouldn't call it a fee for using the ramp, you call it a registration fee, which is a way of circumventing it. And by the way, and I agree, it's a good question, but I would not think that you're violating the policy by doing that. charging it, and there may be other reasons.
Well,
for
use the
charging
facilities at no
registration.
charge.
Yeah,
The registration fee would be a
Pretty
charge.
clearly says it's
Yeah.
no charge.
Oh, I'm not,
Just the boat ramp. The rest look,
it's
I mean,
definitely,
the rest look okay, but the boat ramp,
well, one of the things we could do is
Take it out.
take the boat ramp out.
Let's take it out.
I mean, if you guys think so, I
Take it
just,
out. Take
Take
it
it
out.
out.
Okay.
now that doesn't guarantee we're going to use that process this year. It's just,
So we need the flexibility, right, Bob?
that's how I read it, yes.
Yeah, take it out.
Okay. The next one is one that other people have raised as well. This is Section C, non-association member use. We removed the language that said with current exception of the marinas and beach club and inserted the word subject to availability. I for one, I think everybody pretty much knows that I have no intention, unless I'm forced to by the IRS, to open up the beach parking to anybody other than a member of our association, in my mind. And not everybody agrees to that, but that's my position on it. And this wording, by eliminating the marinas and beach club parking from this, implies that as long as there's availability, somebody who isn't a member can use it. So I just draw your attention to that, and I think it ought to be adjusted.
It doesn't imply anything. It just doesn't say anything. I mean, the wording was taken out, my rationale, and let me make that clear, for taking it out was that it was unnecessary.
For what?
That it was unnecessary.
Well,
I mean, those words were,
well, the
in
problem
general, our policy is that it's all open.
Well, this section defines non-association member use.
If in fact, the IRS comes, it turns out that the IRS is, as we believe them to be, or simply full of it, and that the judge agrees with us, and that we don't have to assign non-association members to it, then we still can do it.
Well, unfortunately, Dave, my view on this is by taking the beach club out of here and read it as subject to availability means that if there's a parking space available, that the general community can buy it. And that's what this reads by taking
They
that out.
can't, we don't sell parking spaces.
No, the only.
And we are the sole,
That's
the
right.
sole judge of whether it's available or not. And I don't think we'd have a hard time convincing anybody when we sell thousands of parking stickers for hundreds of places.
The very second sentence says, fee-based amenities, the general public may purchase association memberships or pay daily fees. I mean, the very next sentence completely states that the beach club parking is then available to a non-member.
Yeah, that's got
That's what it says.
That's got to be changed, because a beach club should not be available to non-members.
No, it doesn't say that. Wait a second, what are we
What
looking at?
English am I not
Non-associated,
understanding?
all the amenities of the association are available to the general public, subject to availability. For fee-based amenities, the general public may purchase associate memberships or pay daily fees.
Where do we exclude the beach club in here?
That's not a fee-based amenity. Well, it's
Yeah, it
listed
is.
under one, beach parking is
Yeah,
listed.
it is.
We don't
Beach-
have, we have 2,500 passes.
Yeah, beach club parking is a fee-based.
Okay, Tom. Relax there, Pete.
Again, it's subject to availability is the
Well,
key
again,
thing.
you could argue that if we don't have a limit on how many beach club parking passes we're
Somebody
going to
could.
sell,
Somebody could.
well, somebody could, but I mean, this is the guideline that we're writing. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm going to stand pretty strong on this one. To me, this has to be reinserted, that the beach club parking is excluded from this general
I wouldn't
access.
do it.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, it's
I
just
wouldn't
not,
do it.
it's unnecessary to do that. I mean, what is going to happen? I mean, it says subject to availability, and if we're not the determinant of whether or not it's available or not, I mean, I don't know who can be. Not the person walking on the street.
Tom, let me remind you and the others that basically one of the key aspects of our IRS appeal of the IRS decision is based on the impracticality of selling to the general public beyond the $2,500 that we sell to our community members. If we have a specific policy prohibiting the sale, I would not want that to be, I wouldn't want to adopt that as a policy, number one, because I think it hurts our case and our arguments that the reason we do what we do is simply the practicality of having only 300 spaces, rather than by putting in their policy into this, I just think it really hurts that case. I would strongly advise not to do it.
This statement, as it reads right now, would allow a non-member to walk into our building and buy a beach club parking pass as long as any of those 2,500 parking passes were available.
I disagree.
Well, you can disagree all you want. I've written over 5,000 contracts in my life, and I'm telling you, that's what this thing says.
Jim?
Now, maybe we gotta go to
You
legal.
brought them.
Then we gotta go to legal to get assessment.
I'm staying out.
You stand out.
And by the way, let me point out that should that be the case, which I do not believe it is, I believe that we get to define what availability is.
This one, I think
Because
we gotta get
it's
some
our
legal assessment
property.
on.
But secondly,
Yep.
we also get to establish what the outside charge is. And we can make it what we want. It doesn't say it has to be reasonable. It says, as a matter of fact, it must be higher than we're charging our own members. So we have every means of controlling that, and it's without making it a policy. That
That's what you're
we
doing.
won't sell to anybody, and that's the issue. Do we make it a policy that we not sell it to anybody else, or do we simply regulate it as we have within our power? And which we may be forced to do anyway.
Les, what do you think?
I agree with Dave on this one. I do.
Okay.
I think we would do ourselves a disservice if we limited it too severely.
Okay.
Well, without legal review on this one, I will not be voting for round two to be approved, but that's okay, we'll move on. If it gets approved over my objection, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let's just know your objection so we know.
No, the question I'm going to
Well, you vote
have,
against it, maybe, I don't know, but
the question, twofold on this. We've, obviously, you guys know, very, very limited availability, 300 spaces, and we sell, 2,500 parking passes. Opening to the public, I know it's a fine line right now, and Pete brings up the IRS lawsuit. We really, in my mind, I would like to see legal advice on this before we do anything, because truth of the matter is, guys, subject to availability, day one, May 1st, things are available. You can come in, sign up for a membership. Availability, how do I know the condo next door maybe want to come and buy 20 spots, 50 spots for their residents? It's currently available. How do I implement policy to eliminate or limit that availability without clearer guidance on this? And again, I'm not arguing that it should or shouldn't be open. I would rather have, in my mind, to carry out a policy on it and to protect our residents. I need more guidance than this.
Well,
I just to be able to carry it out, and I just 300 spots for 8,442 properties. That's going to be a tough one for me to follow without clear guidance from the board.
why has it not been difficult in the past?
Because we wouldn't sell them to anybody who wasn't a member.
A policy and guidance that says we will not sell beyond to our current membership, and the numbers have varied between 2,200 and 2,500 annually for many, many years.
What people don't see, Ray, go ahead.
The standard policy right now, somebody walks up to the front desk and wants to buy a beach parking lot, the question is asked, are you an association member?
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are they told if you're not an association member? How often does this come up? How often does an outsider come in and want to buy a beach parking pass? We have 300 spots, 2,500 sold. That's called overcapacity of what you need because not everybody's going to be there at all the time. That's, I think the current policy, the way it is, it's got to stand.
And by the way, you can
that's the
control
current stand.
when you start to sell the beach passes to non-members too. By the start of our fiscal year, I mean, how many of the beach memberships are sold?
The first 30 days, the majority.
Yeah, the large majority.
Yes.
So by that time, you already know the numbers that you've got, and not available. Okay, but on the other hand, even if they are available, you look at the numbers and you say, well, what are you going to charge them?
Look,
I know it's difficult. It makes it
I
difficult.
want clear guidance on this
and this
issue.
is-
But I think it's a non-problem.
No, it's a huge problem because Bob's thing that he just laid out is exactly what could happen here. This doesn't say what the policy is for availability. Pete, I know we don't agree on this one. Write that one down on a calendar.
But please, why is it a huge problem if it has never been a problem before?
Because we have never sold to non-members before, Pete.
How many
This opens
non-members
the
have
door
tried
to sell to
buy one?
non-members.
How many tried to buy one this year, Bob?
That's not the point, gentlemen. The point is that this language in this guideline says the public can buy them. That's what it says.
Subject to availability.
Defined by who, when, and how.
It doesn't. It's defined by us. I mean, it's our policy, for crying out loud. It's our policy, it's our property.
Now, what's he supposed to do? If the condo's, using Bob's example,
I think what he'll do is sit down and figure out at what point in time he'll start releasing these things.
Dave, do you have it there in front of you? When it gets into this discussion in the policy, I thought there was some general language that sort of was introductory to the whole discussion.
You could say spaces available after some certain date are available to the public.
That's part of the regulation, Les. That's exactly right.
No, it's not.
I'm talking about not
Yes, it
just
is.
the-
Where does it say that, Dave?
It's not part of the policy, it's part of the regulation. Difference. You set the policy, you say that the policy will be regulated, and you regulate the policy.
Excuse me, but
It's a huge.
it's a private beach club. We're a homeowners association. We have no responsibility to provide anything for the outside world.
Okay,
It's ridiculous.
okay.
Different issue.
I think we, well, you've got my position on it. I think we need legal review on this before I think this is opening Pandora's
Legal
box.
review, which legal review?
On this section of what the implication of it is,
No,
Pete.
here's my point. Here's my point is this. Our legal counsel is not a tax attorney. We have sought other counsel to advise us in the IRS matter because they are tax counsel. Joe Moore does not have tax.
So we go to the legal, to the I didn't say
Well, they've
Joe
already-
Moore.
We've already done that, and what Pete is suggesting is what has already been placed in our counter to the IRS. And
Correct,
that,
it's part of that brief.
yeah, on the brief.
Which
So
it says
it's
we
already
don't-
been done.
Which
So,
says we do not sell.
yeah.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
It gives the rationale for why we don't, Tom.
I'm just telling you guys, the way this thing is written right now, it is in complete, direct conflict with the filings that we did with our own court case.
Well, let me ask you what legal
I
issue.
disagree.
Okay, that's fine.
What legal issue, is that the legal issue we're talking about, the IRS issue?
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Name another.
The other is, it's not a legal issue, the other is, this
Okay,
says,
it's not a legal
subject to
issue.
availability, you could have somebody who owns condos next to our parking place show up on day one and buy 20 parking
That's
spaces.
a regulation issue. Now, what is the only legal issue that you're talking about that is the tax issue, the IRS issue?
Until somebody comes back from, that isn't a member of us and says, here's what your guideline says.
The 3 words could be deleted from that to eliminate the whole problem, and that is subject to availability.
No, then it says all amenities association are available to the general public, period.
That's even worse.
That's a little bit worse, because that throws the other item, which nobody mentioned, is the marina. Although, and it's subject to availability, definitely, fits that. I mean, if we found out next year, Bob, entrepreneur that you are, that we had no slips in the yacht clubs sold, would you or would you not have big advertisements in Tom's paper?
I would.
Yes, you would.
I would.
And so we really don't want that policy, do we?
You better not, because those slips come for a lifetime as long as you have them right now.
No, but if at the end of the year, everybody says we all died and they're all magically, nobody wanted them, yeah, we wouldn't have a members-only policy, would we? But we actually would, but we wouldn't.
All right, where do we stand on this thing
Well,
right
I mean,
now?
obviously, we're not in agreement as to what the language of this ought to be, at least I'm not. I think this opens a Pandora's box to non-members
We
getting
have
access.
different opinions, and that's not unusual, or, not every vote around here is unanimous, so.
Okay, next.
Second reading.
One final comment. We can always amend the policy in the future, can we not?
Yeah,
We can always amend the resolution, and we have.
we can.
All right, this consumer relationship management, CRM,
May I back up one time?
Yes.
I mean, I made notes.
go ahead, yeah.
Item 7, that's just before the CRM one,
Yeah.
marketing. The plan will be developed and presented to the board no later than November board meeting of each year. October, November, December, we're going through budget process. I just need to understand, you develop a marketing plan, bring it to the board, for consideration, but then things get removed from the budget that impact the marketing plan. It creates a challenge. That's in a couple of spots here for me, but from a timing standpoint, I don't have the exact here's what the time is, but I need the budget to support the marketing plan. So if I present a plan, board says yes, but then something in the budget says you can't do, then I'm caught because I can't meet a marketing strategy that I've gotten approval in November, but the board doesn't approve till February the budget, and they take something out in the marketing plan, yet I'm still supposed to meet it per this guideline. It puts me in a really odd spot trying to deliver if I don't have the resources to deliver.
Then the intent of this, I am assuming from the committee, was to simply, once a year, get a marketing plan. Does it have to be November?
Well, I think the marketing plan is viewed as, it's a plan, start and implement, it's not implementation.
No, it says comprehensive annual amenity marketing plan. That's what this is.
It's a piece of paper, yeah.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now you have a plan, and the idea would be that the plan would be, part of the basis for your budget request. So I'm missing, I'm not getting it on here.
Yeah, no, and that's why again, I just marked it as a discussion point. Preparing the plan to be developed and presented to the board no later than. Now, it doesn't say approved by the board, which gives me that flexibility, but if presented to the board, that implies that there's some acceptance or non-acceptance of whatever is developed, okay? If it's accepted, and then I've put items in the budget to support that plan, and those items get removed from the budget because, for whatever reason, someone disagrees with it.
That's true.
Then I've gotten a board agreed upon comprehensive annual marketing plan that I can't meet because I don't have the resources, or I'm going to be told to meet them using the limited resources. It's really, in my mind, not the appropriate way to do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, but let me just ask this, because it's kind of interesting. We see the plan, we say, boy, what a great plan, and we agree to it, now push forward. Now you're worried that 3 months later, we're going to look at the budget, and presumably the plan would have some indication of the resources needed, how much we're going to
Yes.
spend on it. And we approve the plan first, we say, what a great plan. We come to the budget, and now you're concerned that we might take out what we agreed to before.
And this year proves that that could happen multiple times.
Well, I don't think so, because let me just continue.
Okay.
In my opinion, it would be much less likely that we will take out funds for something that we've already understood, seen, and agreed with than we would later on when we haven't seen anything to back it up. That's what happened this year. There was little backup and plans for many of the budget items.
Yes, go ahead.
Is that, are we asking the general manager to supply us with a budget request for or a complete plan?
It's a comprehensive
That's,
annual
I think, what
amendment.
he's asking. Because he can come in, and then if we approve the budget request, then he can come in with a complete plan.
Well, they come in, yeah, I guess maybe. It says comprehensive annual, I don't know what that exactly means.
Well, that's why I was asking. I read it and I'm like,
I didn't write it, so I can tell you that right now, but,
What is magic about the word November? I guess is what I'm,
well, I'm just trying to find out
Seemed like a
when.
good idea.
yeah, I don't,
Right.
that's why I brought it for discussion.
Well,
Would it be more appropriate to have it in April, just prior to the start of the season?
Well, then how would we know what it is we're approving your budget for? I mean, if we don't know, you
I know,
come in
I
with, you come in and say, I need, $100,000 to.
With the approved budgetary items, I can then make sure my plan's going to be met within those guidelines. Reversing it, and you guys have the ability to approve or disapprove it. I don't. So by giving you the plan that you approve and then later take away the funding or the
All right, I think
resources.
I'm getting your point, Bob. You don't have a comprehensive plan unless you have a budget to go along with it.
Yes,
You don't have
correct.
the budget to go along with it.
Correct.
And it's a little chicken and egg thing. And,
There's probably not 100% great way to do it, but
The November timeframe is just unreal, that needs to be changed.
I moved it to April as an example.
Yeah.
Because February, the board approves the budget.
Right.
You'll have an idea what's
Right, and then you develop a comprehensive plan
Further-
in support of that.
correct.
That doesn't mean you don't have a plan going in, but you have, because you've got to sell it as part of the budget, let's say if you believe that that's an appropriate plan, right?
Correct. Great example, the shuttle bus.
Being comprehensive, why would you spend an awful lot of time on something that's going to be rejected anyway?
Correct.
So.
well, nothing's going to be rejected unless we see it.
Sufficient to support the budgetary aspect of it, get the budget approved, and then you put the resources to develop the comprehensive plan no later than what, April?
I would say April before the start of the fiscal year.
Well, may I ask this, Bob?
Makes sense to me.
Could we, would you object to saying a preliminary plan shall be developed and presented to the board not later than November?
He's still working on the budget then, Dave.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm thinking of. I mean, I'm knee deep, and apparently there's a
And then
new.
that's going to generate more controversy. He'll be in the middle of a budget, which won't be completed until the end of December. But it's taking a piece of the budget out. So maybe December, what you just suggested with December rather than November, and then later, the May timeframe for the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, okay.
Or April, rather.
Yeah, I don't want to pin it, I don't have to pin it down to November. What I'm looking at is before we get the budget request, that we have some idea of what it is that we're approving that portion of the budget for. And that can be a preliminary plan with the rough number, whatever. But we want to see that as part of the budget request.
Right.
Okay, you're with that, Pete, right?
Bob, you okay with that?
I'm trying to think through it a little bit. Again, it doesn't resolve the issue or concern I have.
Which is?
Just if the resources are, and I understand what Mr. Stevens' point is, the trying to approve a budget trying to put the final stamp of approval on a budget without understanding the marketing strategy. That went into the budget last year. I mean, that I talked about what we were doing. Comprehensive annual amenity marketing plan is just delivering that.
No.
A preliminary.
I think you've made that point, and I think I hope that most of us would agree that that's unrealistic to have a comprehensive plan before you've got the budget done.
Okay, what if it read, the management shall prepare, insert the words, a draft marketing plan by December for use during the budget process, and a comprehensive annual amenity marketing plan to support amenity use and membership enrollment. This plan shall be developed and presented to the board no later than April, in the April board meeting. That's the comprehensive finished plan. Then we got a draft of it in December and a final version of it in April.
I got to tell you,
I just, you know,
one nuance to that. Rather than specify the time frame for the preliminary, just eliminate a month and just say together with the budget.
a preliminary marketing plan prior to approval of budget?
Or when submitting the budget.
I mean, then we're not
that
tied down
preliminary,
to...
whatever the language you use, Tom, and Dave used pretty much the same language, but not have it be a one-off kind of thing, have it be part of the budget package.
Yeah, something
In
like
other words,
that.
So in other words, not say November or April or whatever, for that part, just say.
A draft marketing plan for use during the budget
For the
process.
budget submission.
I had one other, yeah, okay, I'm sort of okay with that, but the other thought is that, you know, in terms of timing, you said something like April. I mean, if we're gonna have a marketing plan, I mean, that ought to be ready like right after the budget is done, because that's the time frame at which you want to start the marketing. March.
No, yes and no. Here's why I say that. If there are changes, and we went through several this past budget process, I need to be able to adapt and make changes.
The wording says not later than. I just caught that. It doesn't say that it has to be, it's just not later than April. If we put April in there, Dave, it says not later than.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, whoever wrote this put not later than.
Right? I mean, so not later than April, okay with you?
I don't care as long as you got the preliminary.
It could be a plan that relates to the summer.
Yeah, I'm okay with this one.
Not later than April works.
Okay.
April 1st?
By the April board meeting.
Or the April board meeting. Okay, yeah.
Whenever that
okay,
is.
Gotcha.
Yes, right.
All right.
Okay. Everybody thought this policy stuff was easy. On to 8, the consumer relationship management. Not exactly. This is CRM. There are CRM systems out there that need to be followed. I'm looking at Bob on this one because I'm kind of.
I had concerns here.
Is there an issue on here because I'm not sure.
Well, there's many types of CRM. As you read it here, I understand the intent. I mean, this makes sense to me. I think we should have some sort of policy, so I don't have any issue. Area iCircle was the technology or technologies. You know, there are CRM software packages for, you know, that you use to manage it's relationship software. The challenge is without developing a strategy using the CRM, again, defining when this has to be delivered will have significant impact would come from the budget. You know, if I put in software, and we've been looking at CRM specific software that integrates a lot of what we do, the challenge is without the software, it completely changes the way that we're going to address the CRM. So you really have to develop multiple, 2 different strategies, one with the technology to support it and one without, if you're really going to go after this in a big way. And I think we should. I think this is a good idea. But again, it becomes a budget issue. If we don't have the budgeted items to meet the needs.
So we're back into that December is the
I just think this is driven, again, a lot by budget. You know, I think it's a great, I think this is exactly what we ought to be focusing on. But you need the resources to do it. It's nice to say, but if you don't have anything behind it, it's hard to deliver.
Is this getting back again to the what's the plan and then what's the budget?
Chicken and egg.
Is this the chicken and egg
Yeah,
thing again?
The CRM thing, I didn't, my eyes glazed over when they put this in, but when I didn't maybe ask as many questions. I was just hoping it wouldn't come up again.
Sorry about that.
But now that it has,
This could be tied to the marketing plan and probably should.
yeah, I question the whole paragraph. First of all, CRM is in customer relationship management.
Right.
And it's not defined.
Right.
It tells what it says, first of all, a feel-good sentence in the front, then it says CRM recognizes that, doesn't define it. Successful CRM requires, there's nothing in here, you have this thing, CRM in caps, parentheses, undefined. So you started talking about software or packages and stuff like that. So I kind of thought that maybe I kind of knew that there must have been something behind it. But
I didn't put this in.
I know you didn't.
Okay.
I know you didn't. And bless you for not having done that. But however it did, it's still there. And as far as I'm concerned, customer relationship management is just some vague concept that that says we ought to figure out how to manage our customer relationships. Is there anything wrong with interpreting it that way?
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what I thought we always do. And
right.
Your predecessor tried to do that, as his predecessor did too.
To me, this came down to that they're looking for whoever put this in, and I don't know who did. They're looking for a customer satisfaction plan to be part of what we're all about in managing this place, and I don't think anybody disagrees that that's got to be a part of what we're doing. The question for me becomes, CRM, there are actually companies that call themselves that.
Yes.
What does that actually mean? And Bob, your comment a minute ago is perhaps we simply take CRM and say, that's part of the marketing plan. And we get rid of this chicken or egg thing that we keep running into with the budget, non-budget.
It would be part of my marketing strategy. I can tell you that. How we manage our current customers, which are our members and guests, and how we continue to meet their needs, to me, that's all part of our marketing strategy.
Can we change the end of this last sentence, Jim, to be something that this to be included in the marketing plan above?
It certainly is fine with me. Let's make sure, I want to be careful with my comment here, because we're talking about a section of the resolution that was really not something that came from the Bylaws and Resolutions Advisory Committee.
Okay.
It came from a resolution. Let's be frank about it. There was the product of a prior board president, and that's Bill Rayco.
Okay.
And I think it reflects the necessity to have a marketing plan and to have and that's in that paragraph 7. I don't think there's any particular problem with changing November to April. That probably reflects reality. Don't separate marketing, or separate budgeting and a marketing plan is certainly a realistic and valid thing, and that's the April does in fact do that. But recognize there's budgeting requirements and a marketing plan needs to be developed. That I think that's legitimate. And the same with the customer service. There's got to be an emphasis on customer service. And I think I think this paragraph 8 reflected a dissatisfaction with emphasis with customer service at that time, and that there has to be an emphasis on customer service.
Jim is correct. In my memory, back then, there was that discussion that customer service was thought to be lacking. And by the way, customer service also includes internal customers, such as other divisions of our own organization and so forth. And there was an attempt to specifically put that in there.
As a suggestion to maybe solve the chicken or egg issue, if we change the very last sentence in section 8, management shall develop and present an annual customer service plan, strike the rest of that sentence and as a service plan as a part of section 7. I'm just trying to get the timelines lined up between the two.
Or you can, I mean, Mark, let's sincerely hope that marketing and customer service are two different things.
They are.
I mean, really different things.
All right, well, then we got to get the timelines aligned.
Well,
Get the chicken or egg issue.
Well, you can do that by changing the month pretty easily. There's a whole bunch of words I would wish weren't in here. I think you could do it in one sentence, just like you did in marketing. But, you know, if you want the minimal change, just change the date. The bottom line here, after all these words, is that management shall develop and present an annual customer service plan to the board, not later than whenever you want.
Why don't we just combine that in April? We'll
And
give
you
them
get
multiple parts.
So put April.
I mean, if that works.
Yeah.
Because I'm certainly not against this being in here, but.
April's gonna be a busy month for me.
April works, okay.
Now, this may have some budget implications too, but maybe not. Depends if you're gonna have training classes or whatever, you know,
Right.
stuff like that. So, but we've always had budgeted money for that, so.
Okay.
Okay. Next thing is we get to an italics. Pricing and fees, may adjust fees during the budget year. Part of the discussion I know that we had at the last board meeting and others have had it as well is I personally believe we've got to give the general manager some leeway to manage things through the year, and that allow for the management of fees and prices for product and those kinds of things without having to come back to the board for every single change that somebody wants to make. And I understand that can be a slippery slope if you have the wrong kind of person sitting in the chair. So I see both sides here. But there's got to be some middle ground here that is less restrictive than every single change has to come back to the board.
I've got.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no, my question, I have that one circled, and I'm trying to look for it now, but the old version allowed the GM to just do that. I didn't see anything where it says need approval from the board. I mean, it's the budget year. It's the GM's job to do his or her best to meet the budget and to comply. Why in the new one are there constraints? That's what I don't understand.
I don't know
Was there?
what one you have.
Wasn't it MO8? I've got 3 of them because they all referred to it. I'm trying to find exactly where I had it
I didn't
written.
think this changed from MOA.
Cost operating, price increases. Fees shall be structured.
Section 7, pricing and fees, page 2 of the original 08. Pricing and structure established to meet diverse circumstances and needs. Fees shall be
It's item B.
B, okay, annual budget issue.
Last sentence, and this, I'm sorry, MO8, page 3, item,
Yeah, it says it's during the annual budget. Let me just read it. The last sentence says, "The board shall review and recommend fee structures and approve them in the annual budget. However, management may adjust fees to attract new members as necessary during the budget year."
That's what the old one says?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's on page 3. Here, come in. Thank
That
you.
sounds good.
I don't remember it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Why don't we go to the old language?
How did this get changed?
I don't know. I mean, that's what, I was trying to refer, MO3, MO2, and MO8 were all put into this new one, and I was trying to find all the pieces.
Yeah, that had to be done during the board.
It's one of the italics, so it came up at one of our, maybe during the first reading.
That was because, it came out because of your comment.
Which comment? I wouldn't have asked for this, I guarantee you.
It was your comment, well, yes, it was. I mean, no, you didn't, I'm not saying this language came up because of your comment. The reason it's italicized, it was in the previous first reading, and it was in the version of, that was produced by the original board. So that language has followed along. Okay. It came up as an italicized item because you said something about 15%. Your comment was to, well,
it wasn't italicized before, it was in regular print as part of the document. And
It wasn't regular print. It's italicized now because you questioned it.
I've raised the issue,
Because you raised the issue.
either get rid of this or there needs to be a leeway of pricing change. I think we just take it out. I think you go back to the original language that.
Back to the original language.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Just go back to the original language.
I wonder who took it. I wonder who took it out.
No, it looked, when I read this, it looked to me like someone added that during the year and changed it.
No, it was
Whatever it is, we're all agreeing to get rid of it, so let's just get rid of it.
We're all agreeing to get rid of it. Back to the original, right?
Well, if this was the original policy, my only point on things like this, these changes to these resolutions, the additions, clarifications, cleaning them up, were supposed to be policy neutral unless we identified something that we want to change, and then we'd all vote on that specific thing. And but in something that's gone on as long as this, it's pretty hard.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to,
I don't hear any disagreement around this table.
No, I don't. If this is the original policy,
right,
then at this point, that's what we should have.
One more time.
Yes, and Dave, you have.
The board shall review the recommended fee structures and approve them in the annual budget. Semicolon. However, management may adjust fees to attract new members as necessary during the budget year.
Good, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Good by me.
Satisfies me.
Good by me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, is somebody getting all this? Are you bummed?
Yeah,
We got
You got
notes
it?
all over the
What?
place. We'll sit down with you.
What happened?
I think that came up because of changes to the tennis fees.
Try to figure it out.
Yeah, I know. I don't know
Okay.
either.
Okay, the next one that I have, eligibility number 2. I'm just trying to determine, it says in here twice, as determined by the board. Association property owners, renters, and such property are eligible to purchase memberships. An annual charge for the property or any other charge is not delinquent, and the property is not in continuing violation of the declarations of restrictions of subdivision as determined by the board. The way that reads to me, the board is not going to be the one who determines whether or not the person asking to pay the fee. That's as determined by the GM and the staff.
No.
You talking about elections?
No, this is
Eligibility for election?
this is buying membership.
Oh, a membership, okay.
This is, I'm not against the intent.
I think as determined by the board is referring to, the board is the one that are the governing body for declarations, restrictions of the subdivision. If I'm not mistaken, as I read this, the board's not going to sit at the front desk and manage it, but I don't have any authority over declarations or restrictions of the subdivision.
Okay.
Right.
What this
If after
says,
the purchase of a member of property should become delinquent or become violation, DRs, yeah. All right, all I'm trying to get at here is, if this is implementable, fine, I don't care. When I'm reading it, I just don't want the board to be in the business of having to be at the front desk to say whether somebody's dues are paid or not.
no, we're gonna be in a room that's gonna say that this is delinquent.
Okay.
Only with the comprehensive plan things all around.
Exactly.
And with the comprehensive plan, things all around the room. Hey, Bob, how about if we put them in PowerPoint and make them real
Yeah, that would
pretty?
be
Would
cool.
that
We
be
could do
okay?
that.
With
Yeah.
movable language and all that
We
stuff.
could do that.
Okay.
I mean, unless I'm misreading that.
I just,
No,
I think you are, I think you're reading it properly, Bob. I think that's exactly right. It's the board that has the authority, not the general manager.
Correct.
We as a board can
Right.
delegate to
I'm
you
fine.
certain
Yeah.
matters, but I think in this language here, it's appropriate to have it be in the context of board.
I'm fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, you could do it the other way. One of the, the people at the front desk comes in, well, let me see. Oops, no, you haven't paid your dues, therefore you're delinquent, you can't get a membership. That's not gonna happen, right? The board
Okay.
is,
But we as a board could make an exception based on extenuating circumstances.
If
Just in ca-
if someone is in violation,
Right.
we as a management team would not necessarily sell that. They need to be current on fees, association dues before we sell the memberships. It's
Right.
part of the rule. We will follow the rules as established by the board.
I'm good. I'm fine.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Section 11, back to parking permits, just for a second, just to make sure that what's in 9 also applies to 11, that, do we need to reference at all in 11 that your dues have to be paid as well? Or does it need to be any reference between the two, or does 9 take care of it? Because by separating it out as a parking permit, 11, nowhere in 11 does it say your dues have to be up to date. Or do you?
But isn't that covered in?
Well, then I don't then maybe parking permits, I'm just, sorry, I spent years comparing language.
Does 11 speak only to parking permits?
Yes, it
Yep.
does. Yeah, it only refers to parking permits, and nowhere does it say your dues have to be paid.
well, right.
But for other things, your dues have to be paid.
Correct. That's the point I'm
We were raising
raising.
that before, golf membership, for example,
That's the point I'm raising, that 11 would probably have a reference to 9 or something.
why should we have parking set out separately?
Well,
Well, we have associate golf memberships.
Yeah, we do.
The only point I'm pointing out is that under 11, it doesn't say your dues have to be paid.
That's the only one, whether or not associate memberships, where you can't be resident of Berlin and buy a parking pass. You can buy tennis and golf and aquatics, but you can't be a resident of Berlin or Ocean City and get a parking. So, I don't know.
well, but 11 has a different
You
point.
deny something to a member for some of those other things if they're not delinquent, but yet somebody from Berlin can buy a golf membership.
11 isn't supposed to be
You're
a
denying somebody to somebody because they haven't paid their dues, and that's something that's open and available to the general public.
If everybody's comfortable that 9 takes care of that, you gotta have your dues paid, I'm fine.
Jim, doesn't 9 cover the entire
Yeah.
document?
Okay?
Yeah,
I'm asking.
11's just an added
Part of-
point that says, by only one permit per person.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay,
Just a specific
next one,
window.
moving on. General policies, and I think it says B, no member or group of members shall be preferred. Doesn't that conflict with 13F, where it says there are in fact groups that are preferred over the use of the facility for scheduling?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, it says.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The year before, you're talking about use of the amenities you've got?
Well, you've got that as well as the priority table. I'm just pointing out that 12B says there shall be no preference, and in fact there are,
You can just add, except as it states in 13.
which you can add.
Except as
That's
otherwise
fine.
provided in this document.
Right,
Yeah, right.
and that's easily fixed.
Except as otherwise provided in this document. The resolution.
Right.
Everything's neutral unless we specifically carve out. in the section.
Absolutely, that's right. Okay. Under scheduling 13A, and I guess this is a question for you, Bob, the GM shall have authority to control the reservations and scheduling of the association amenities not otherwise provided for elsewhere.
In this resolution.
In this-
Is that in
In
this?
this resolution.
In this
Yeah.
resolution? Okay. Okay. Okay, E is the one where we just, departments tasked with controlling the use of money shall notify all Ocean Pines organizations. I'm just, how's this work? Just explain how E is supposed to work, whoever wrote this. How is this supposed to work?
I can tell you how it works.
Okay,
I didn't write this. Basically, Jessica puts out an email or makes phone calls to those that have either applied or are currently scheduled using the amenities. Community Center is a great example, and we have a periodic review and update, you know, and we have folks that call in, they know to call and make sure we're scheduled to use the facility at certain times. Certain groups have certain timeframes they like to use it, and they just know when it's coming due, and they apply to fill in it's just a scheduling exercise.
so this outgoing notification, fine.
It goes to all the groups who used it before.
Right.
Yeah.
All groups who have expressed an interest in using it up to this point, and it goes in the media.
Just like the schedule on that door.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we do it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if there's,
I'm just
yeah, no, that's good.
making sure this stuff is implementable. And not
So far.
so far, okay. I don't have anything on page 6 other than that. Yes, sir.
Well, there were italicized items on page 6.
Again, let's go back to them.
Yeah. Individuals and organizations, and this is F, after the
Okay.
priority table, and these things were put in, and I put them in after reading all your comments, Tom, and I, you know, have no pride of authorship or any specific, but we need to resolve an issue. All individuals and organizations using the facility in the current year shall have preference over organizations applying for the first time. I believe that was already in there.
Yep.
However, this preference shall not extend to more than 1 year if there are other organizations, should be an S, applying for the same space, time and space. You know, I guess the preference item, was that in the one that came from bylaws, Jim? That preference thing? This thing? Or was that added via comments? No. Well, whatever.
That was
Added?
at the last meeting.
Yeah, I think it was added as a result of Tom's comments. And,
Actually, that one came from,
and the modification, the second sentence was mine.
right,
Because I remember we discussed this in, you know, prior discussions.
Right.
About that, and that's what I recall about the result of those discussions and the intent. I have no problem with the way it is. I believe you have to have, unless you put forever after the first sentence. You have to put some limit on it if other people want to use it. Should the same organization have it for the next 20 years?
20 years. Well, again, I get back to the implementation of this thing. Bob, this basically gives a directive that says once a community organization has used time and space 1 year, they don't automatically get to outposition themselves over other people the next year. I just asked the question, is this manageable?
No, they do get a preference for 1 year.
For the first year.
For the
After
first-
that year,
and
they
after
don't
that,
get it.
they don't get a preference.
Just if this is, I mean, there's got to be guidelines and procedures put together to support this.
Yeah, this one's tough because we have some groups that have been using this facility at a certain time frame for multiple years.
Yeah.
And effectively, so yeah, we'll figure a way through it. I mean, it's just reasonable communication with everybody. So-
Now, it only comes up too, and it is a you work it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it only
It is.
comes up if somebody says, you know what, I'm tired of those, swimming women using that community center.
Right.
There's not really any pool in there, and they're just, doing their thing, and they've got it every year. It only comes up if that person makes that objection, and
Right.
then you have to say, well, then you resolve it, right?
And we'll just have to communicate. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
it may be tough from time to time, but I mean, again, reasonable heads should prevail on that.
Yeah, but I guess what this resolution will tell you is, look, you don't have a preference automatically and forever. That's not part of the
You don't
policy.
own it forever.
Right.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah, I don't mean-
I can-
using that, you can go
I
and
can
do
work
your
with that.
thing.
Unfortunately, everyone here is ultimately cooperative.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Item G, I bump into a little bit of concern with that, and maybe I'm misreading it. Once scheduled use of the amenity has been authorized, no other activity may displace the scheduled activity without agreement of the affected party.
Yeah,
The board actually has the ability to make a change. This says
it has had, yeah.
this says that it
No,
cannot,
no longer.
what happens if the board wants to use the room and ABC group is in there and says, no, this policy says the board does not have a right to take the space and use it. That's how I read this. Now, we have yet to
I
upset
think you
a
read it,
group.
you read it correctly, that's what the words say.
That's what it
I
says.
don't know if that's appropriate. Now, and Tom's asked me before, hey, can we move the board meeting because it's bigger? I said, Tom, we've already got someone scheduled over there. I don't think it's appropriate to move, and he's been fine. He's like, fine, and we move forward. But with this, the board does not have a right. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, but the board nor does management. My concern there, if I have multiple activities, and let's say we have something change where I have to rearrange parties for whatever reason, I at least think that the management team ought to have the ability to make the move, regardless of what the group thinks, because it's we need to be considering a larger impact. Now, we haven't done it to this point. I mean, please understand, that's never the
You're gonna
intent.
have it.
What's that?
You're gonna have it someday.
Well, the more and more use that we have, we do have conflicts periodically. And if we find, a reason, and it would have to be a real legitimate reason, but that's where, again, the communication has to come in. This says no one has authority to make that move.
Well, you're wrong. You
That's not
should
right.
have the
But that's what this says.
authority. I know.
And again, if that's the rule, I can live with it. I haven't moved anybody yet, nor do I intend to once they're scheduled. I think it's unfair. But this eliminates our ability to do it.
So it requires board authority or your authority?
I
We
would,
need the flexibility to be able to do that when circumstances justify for the large community.
I would think displace the schedule to without agreement, without management approval, or something along that lines.
That'd be you. I don't see why it would have to be a board approval.
I don't think that would need to be board to manage real estate, but
No.
I agree with you.
If you inserted the words, once scheduled use of amenity has been authorized, comma, except for GM approval, no other activity may displace. In other words, except for your action or your approval.
that's fine. I do think we should, we need to have it's our structures ultimately to manage. we need to have the ability to
I
manage.
agree. I would agree.
Yeah. Make sure we
I
got
agree
the
with that.
words here somewhere, because
What did you, I
I
think.
said except for GM action or approval.
well, wait a minute, we're in paragraph G.
G, right after the word has been authorized, first line.
One scheduled use of an amenity has been authorized.
Comma, except for GM action or approval, comma, no other activity may displace.
For GM, let's say this again.
GM action or approval.
Why do you need
Comma,
the word action?
To be GM approval.
approval's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Approval, comma, no other activity may displace.
And just so that I'm just going to suggest a word here, just to make it sure that we're really thinking about it, except without the specific, or whatever, I want to insert the word specific where appropriate. It's not just willy-nilly general manager approval, it's very specific approval of the general manager. So, whatever the language is, except for the specific approval of the general manager, something like that. Make it just clear that it's an exception basis. It's not willy-nilly.
And trust me, I'm not looking to
The
move
concept's
people.
good, the concept's
I
good.
mean, it's the last thing I need.
But you just need the authority to if you have to.
Yeah, trust me, it would not be used often.
No,
I don't know any other organization or place that wouldn't have that authority.
that's right.
Is that read right, Jim?
One scheduled use of an amenity has been authorized, except for GM action or approval, no other. Yeah, I'm having trouble, guys,
Okay.
quite frankly. What words you're gonna put in there?
This doesn't make, I mean, I'm sorry,
There's
the
too many
change just
excepts
doesn't make
and
any
steps
sense.
here, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
You see what we're trying to do.
I
right?
understand what
What
you're
you're
trying
trying
to
to
do,
do,
but
yeah.
it doesn't.
Just say the GM can change schedules as appropriate.
GM reserves the right.
No other activity except for GM
Except for
action.
that specifically approved by the general manager. Except for that specifically approved by the general manager. And then I'll shut up.
That's the idea.
That's the idea, but it's not, it makes no sense.
Yeah,
I mean, the bottom line is, to Bob's point, we either let the general manager step in at these sections at this point and make a decision as to whether something's
You could-
displaced or not.
You could best add a sentence at the end of it, which, you know, I'm trying to think, I'll just say the word, in special circumstances, the general manager may change, may reschedule activities as required, something like that.
Anything like that.
Yeah, however you want to
Put
word
that,
it. I mean,
just put the sentence at the end. What we're talking about is one group comes and says, look, I really need to, do this thing. And you're saying, you say, and management
Extenuating
says,
circumstance.
yeah.
We have a board, yeah, extenuating.
We're
we-
not actually talking about somebody coming to him and saying, I want to change. It's the A group going to B group and saying, I want this space.
Well, well, it's sort of like that, and that's what the intent was, is, once everything's scheduled,
It's locked down.
you gotta
The problem is the word no other
A
activity.
group can't come to you and say,
Those
hey,
are
we
the
want the
words that are
space,
causing the
and
problem.
you say B group is bumped. I mean, that's, if you have it, if there's an emergency or something like that, I'm not sure board qualifies for that, but if you decide we do, then I guess it'll be all right.
I haven't done it yet. I don't want it like, I don't think community groups or organizations have a right to control the building. As written, they control it. We reserve the right as the management team to call those shots. It's really, I mean.
Yeah, let's add a sentence at the end that basically says.
The boardroom's on fire, we need to meet your
Well, since
Yeah,
we-
boardroom's under renovation,
Okay.
and we need an alternative place to meet, we have a big
Boardroom's
issue.
on fire, they might just throw us all in there.
Yeah, since
They lock us in.
since we threw the fire department out, we can,
All right,
All
so
right.
we can,
We gotta add a sentence there.
Extenuating circumstance.
Yeah,
yeah.
that works.
Under H, Bob, just as a
Don't
question,
try and define it, please. Just leave it to the discretion of the general manager.
all reservations, 4 years.
my only question on H is there in fact something today operationally that they sign when they reserve? Or would this require you to implement some kind of signing procedure?
There's not, if
for
someone comes in, if
liability?
we
I mean,
add,
it's in here, so I'm just raising.
Yeah,
the issue.
no,
All they
if
do is
we-
put on a schedule.
they're put on the schedule, and that's a big reason why we're managing, we've extended the hours and we're managing the community center very differently. We have someone on staff
Right.
present, you know, if something were to occur, we have someone there to say, hey, wait a minute, we have an issue here.
Well, when I read H, I'm just asking, what is, if we don't have a current policy for not policy, a procedure for implementing H, you would have to change something to implement H, correct?
Yes, and I'll have to check on it. I don't have a definitive answer for you there.
But it's doable.
I think when you fill out the application,
You do sign,
as a
but-
group, there's a person who's the designated,
Point of contact.
Yeah.
There is,
Yeah.
but my concern comes in second year. Jessica just reserves the room for ABC group for the second year, doesn't obtain a signature for the following, the
probably
next year.
should do that.
That's why I made note there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, okay, under I, is there an intent here that there is not an opportunity for the general manager to set aside any of these facilities for not being available in advance?
I completely missed that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
this
Say that
is
again?
saying if there's nothing scheduled, you can use it for something else. I'm simply raising the question, is there a need for the general manager to have the right to take a portion of one of our amenities and make it available for you to market it? 'Cause my question, how do you market something for its use to the general public if in fact you're going to put that as part of the marketing? And then not be able to say when it's available. This implies that you can't market anything to anybody else until after the schedule is, and I'm fine with it if that's where we are. I just want to make sure we know that's what this means. This means you can't market the use of the facility until after the yearly schedule has been established. Because only then would you know when it's available or not available.
Well, no matter when you market it, when it's full, it's full.
Well, it's kind of hard to market something when you don't know if somebody's going to come along and ask for it.
Well, that's what you do, don't you?
I'm just reading I, is it, as it's written.
Well, we're only talking, well,
It doesn't
I see your
say,
point.
you see my point? It
I do.
doesn't say in here, that it's a yearly schedule or what constitutes something now being available under I. I just asked that question.
well, the things that are marketed, hopefully, will be the fee-based amenities such as the food and beverage facilities and the golf course.
If someone wanted to use the Astig room
And pay to use
and
it.
pay to use it,
Well, we have provisions for that.
we do, but I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's what you're referring
That
to.
is part of what I'm asking. When does that then become marketable?
Well, I don't think the point is that they're supposed to be marketable. I think the point is that in fact, they're amenities that are for the use of we're not trying to market them,
Let me
collect
ask the
fees and
question
break
differently.
even. We're allowing them to be used by people who are willing to pay for them as available.
When does I start? Let me just ask it that way. At what point does the room actually become open for someone who's not a member to use it? Is it a month in advance, 3 months in advance, the day before? When does I kick in? That's the question I'm asking.
I would say if G is rewritten with that sentence or the GM action, that takes care of I.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
Ooh.
In other words,
No, I hope not.
here's what I'm thinking. Here's and Tom, tell me if I'm following your logic on this. We have the home show that we booked for that weekend. That displaced some folks that had the room reserved because they had to set up for the entire weekend. Home show, the other one was the health fair. So I'm displacing people that would have been scheduled. Is that what you're referring to?
That's what I'm referring to. Are you allowed to set aside, and healthcare is a great example. Are you allowed to set aside that facility for a health fair and not be in violation of how I is written?
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, well.
Well, I don't see a problem either. I mean, in fact, if you look at the priority table, 3 is Ocean Pines Association Department Programs and Events.
Yeah, but okay.
It just says if nobody's scheduled and somebody wants to schedule it, schedule it.
There's my question.
But Bob Thompson can plug in 6 events that he may be aware of already, the home show, etc., on specific dates, and that takes it off the calendar.
Right.
If
So
somebody
you have a
comes to
right
you,
to do that.
yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Well, I mean, he can,
Well,
yeah, it says
look,
right in the
part of what
priority
you do here is
table.
make sure there is an ambiguity. That's the idea here.
The ambiguity is very simple. It's impossible to create any kind of rule, regulation,
That
or
doesn't-
anything else to cover all available
Exactly.
circumstances. And discretion has to be at the GM to take care of it, and I think that's sitting there.
he's the gatekeeper.
We can only try.
You can only try. That's right.
And what caliber is your gun?
How many angels can dance on the head of a pin?
I'm at the last paragraph. Does anybody want to applaud? The GM shall review the rules of each facility for adequacy annually, no later than, I guess on June 30th, to me, is we're well into the, I just don't know if June 30th is an appropriate date.
Robert, what do you think?
What do you think?
Should a
Wait,
date
another
be in
April
there?
here, or what do you want to do? It would seem to me that this would be something you would look at way
I would
early on.
I would say no later than April 30th, because that's when our fiscal year.
That's where I was thinking, that's all.
I mean, it's in conjunction with the fiscal year, so if we're going to be, that's typically when the changes.
Okay.
Okay. Say a prayer.
Simply, okay. I think we've made a lot of notes here. I mean, I will accept a motion to vote on this if you wish,
Well,
but I'm not sure.
one of
that
those
was
things
appropriate.
was to get legal review, so I don't know how we can
I
really vote on it.
got shouted down on that one, but
Yes. Well, let's, yeah. I just want to go back to
Is
this.
there, I guess the question is, wouldn't it be more appropriate to go ahead and get it all tightened up
where my
for
head
one
is.
last time? We could check, I don't know why it hurts us to check with legal on that one and then come back with all the other changes as proposed. We did a lot in this today.
Yeah, we did. And
I mean, I hate to go over it again. I mean,
We did a lot last week and, or
Yeah.
at the last meeting, and all of those things were cranked into it.
Yeah.
And we've got, a half a dozen new things that weren't cranked into it, weren't reviewed the time before, and weren't reviewed, forever is a possibility on this.
I said, I'm not going to stop a motion for approval if somebody wants to put it forward. At the same time, I think one final draft of this probably makes sense, but
I think another draft.
So, Tom, one final draft for then review and approval by whom?
The board.
Which board?
September, in other words.
It would be September. I'm not gonna call another.
I am going to make a motion that we accept this with the editorial changes that have been,
Before you finish, do we want to wait till Mr. Unger's back
Yeah.
in the room?
right. I just, there you go.
Mr. Unger's now back in the room. Go ahead.
Dave,
Go ahead,
I'll
Dave.
second your motion.
Okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
okay, so the motion is to accept at second reading the amenity policy as written with the editorial changes, the date changes, and so forth that have been made. I think we've captured all of those. And that
Dave, that's our
includes,
final approval, subject to review by email distribution within the next couple of days or something like that.
how does that work? I think we either approve it or we don't approve it, and we can't approve it by email.
Your motion is to approve it,
Yeah.
and I second that motion.
Discussion?
Whose version are we going to approve? Who's got all the notes right now?
We have,
That's my concern.
we have what I shall call editorial changes, which are not, do not in any way change the policy. Starting on page 2, we can go through them. We eliminated the boat ramps.
Let's go through them again.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
page-
that's
on
what we're
page-
trying to avoid, I think.
On page 7 and 8, or 7 rather, we substituted April for December in a couple of places. We agreed to go back to the original language
Right.
of MO8
In 9B.
in 9B. These are all the things we agreed on. On schedule, in scheduling under A, we agreed to add the words after elsewhere in this resolution. That was scheduling,
Page 6.
page 6,
Item
page
A.
5. Page 5, 13, scheduling, item A.
I've got page 6.
Just the way you put it.
Let's forget the page numbers, it's 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
Three different versions of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I've got a, yeah. Okay. In other words, in this resolution,
If we have multiple versions, just
Yeah.
my question would be, why would we not want one clean version for everyone to look at?
That's-
before
Amen.
we?
That's
Again, I'm,
that's what I sent out after the last meeting.
Tomorrow?
Whose version is going to be typed by somebody to make it,
Well, don't we have a secretary
bill.
that captured all the changes?
we have multiple people that were capturing.
Dave Stevens, you've got them all, do you?
I believe I have them all. There was, we did not specify certain of the words, though I think we agree in principle, for an example,
You agree in principle, right?
on the words that would authorize Bob to make changes in schedule, in scheduling. And,
Yeah,
we
okay.
use
The
Carol's
big, I
word.
think getting the words together, I think enough of us took good notes, and I know that I certainly wrote a lot of them down. We could probably coordinate that. The biggest concern I have, to be honest, is not to belabor it, but the Beach Club parking lot. This is a big decision if this is going to be approved with the minor, or with the verbiage changes and open that up general to the public. We just need to make sure that's understood.
Whoa, you're talking about a substantive matter there, not...
I am.
That's the substantive matter.
That's the one, I think that's the only one really big.
What we agreed to Tom Terry was an exception. Tom wanted to write some different language in there, right?
Or check with, or get one more legal review is what Tom
what I
has
said.
suggested.
I think we gotta know what sliding board we're sliding down here before we, I mean, I've already said it, if this language is in there, I'm voting against this thing if we're voting.
Yeah.
I'm
And that's
just-
fine, that
where
one's
I am.
illegal.
I'm sorry, but this is just too big an issue for me to just say yes, because we wanna get the paperwork done.
All the others, I think we've captured. Boat
Right.
ramp is an example. I mean, I
Yeah, so
think
could
between
we
you and I,
agree-
we could probably.
agree in principle that we can get all of the others without controversy.
I would
and-
agree with
and
that.
Accept them.
I think we
as
said
they
all
are
that.
now.
I would agree with that.
So the thing
So
we're
we're
really.
into the single issue of the the parking and the IRS and what we don't have in there?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest glaring issue.
If you could amend your motion to say we approve everything except the wording in 5C, we can move on.
Well,
But I disagree with, I mean, I think we have one negative vote on that.
Well, that could be.
yeah, that's what Pete's saying. Pete, and
We have already spent a lot of money with attorneys to give us that information, and that's what the IRS lawsuit right now is set upon. Why do it again?
you know, I don't care. First, you know, we've been doing this for over a year and way over a year.
Yeah.
And on this amendment, and we're at this one sticking point. But if I thought that we were going to learn anything or contribute anything new on that point, I mean, if I thought that going to the attorneys, they would say, "Oh no, you can't." But I don't foresee that happening. I foresee waiting another 2 months.
No,
Absolutely.
I got you. I guess everyone, so the board's going to vote to open up the beach club parking to general public is what
We
this
don't
is.
say that.
Yes, it
No.
does.
Again,
Absolutely does.
It's an interpretation of what it says.
I'm reading the words, Pete.
Yeah, it says.
All of the amenities, this is under item C, my page 3, non-associate member use. All of the amenities of the association are available to the general public. What is stricken out of that
Now
paragraph,
read the whole thing, Bob. Come on.
I'm sorry, if I kept reading, there's words that are stricken out. Would you like to read it to him the way you want it
I'll
read?
tell you what.
He doesn't have
The
it in
words-
front of him.
The words that are stricken out because they're not the final version.
He doesn't have it in front of him.
Language in there personally, and I think it's dangerous to put language in there that says that is open to the general public or not open to the general
What
public.
channel is that?
It's C, non-associate member use.
You know, we had a great amount of discussion earlier about subject to availability.
Yeah.
And in the words you just read, there was no subject to availability language.
what's the
Again, I don't have it in front of me.
Non-associate.
What's the big number?
Our whole argument, not a whole one. One of the key arguments is the
It's 4,
impracticality
no, 5, I'm sorry,
about
5.
selling to the general
God, I'm
public.
sorry.
All right.
Here, Bob. Bob, it's unfortunate.
He doesn't have it, I just want to
Yeah,
make sure.
but this is the one with, those are the track changes are still in your copy.
I got that.
Okay, so now this is the original right there. I mean, this is the clean version without the track changes, and read what it says.
You want it read without the track changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you hear that, Pete? Pete, I'm going to read it to you without the track changes.
Okay, without the track changes, okay.
Okay, this is non-association member use. All of the amenities of the association are available to the general public, subject to availability.
Okay,
That's what it says.
and the track changes inserted some language.
No,
Track
that's,
changes took language out.
Okay, and that language that you just read to me is what we've had in the past?
no, sir.
No.
What, let me read, all right, now I'll read what we, if it's appropriate.
Availability is a key part of this thing. And what Dave has argued earlier is that we get to decide when we have enough to sell to the general public or not.
It's not, that's right. It is, and by the way, this is no change from the last reading. Okay, the first reading,
what I thought.
these are the same, no change from the first reading.
And I argued against it at the
And-
first reading.
And that's why it's italicized. I mean, we're not.
Well, I'm sorry,
The beach club parking, which will not be available to the general public, right?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Okay. Tom said, my understanding was that Tom wanted to insert language there that said essentially that except for the beach club parking, which shall not be available to the general public.
I wanted to put it back to its original language. The language that was stricken said with the current exception of marinas and beach club parking, period. That's what was in there originally. That got stricken out and was replaced with the word subject to availability.
And that I agree with.
This is what the current.
Well, you agree with which one? What Tom said or with what the new language
The
is?
current resolution.
The original.
08.
Subject to availability.
Okay. He's going with the new one without the... Okay, I just want everybody to understand what it is, so I can understand what I need to do.
I
current
think it's
exception.
very dangerous for us at this moment to be writing in language explicitly establishing policy that it will not be open to the general public or that it will be open to the general public.
I
Okay.
agree,
Subject to
I
availability.
agree.
Subject to
All right, I'm gonna call the question.
Okay.
All those in favor
Of what?
of the motion, Dave's motion?
To accept it as is, given the editorial changes which will be worked out.
Editorial changes.
Yeah,
Is that in writing?
Aye.
it will be.
What was the vote?
All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Opposed?
3 opposed.
3-2, motion fails.
Not without a clean draft.
Yep, so let's get a clean draft and we'll come back.
There we go.
See you next year.
There we go. All right, we are moving into any public comment before we go into, I'm going to do public comment now so we can go into executive session without any public comment. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. May I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, yes. What was the vote, 3-2?
3-2.
3 in favor of,
No, two in favor of the motion, 3 opposed.
and I can't see everybody, so myself,
And
You
Mr.
and Dave voted yes, Ray,
okay, that's all.
Les and I voted no.
That's all I need to know, thank you.
Okay. You know where my house is, you can come find me.
Clean
No,
draft.
I'm just,
Majority rules.
we're in
All right.
relax. Here we go.
Okay, Nancy.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Nancy Weber. I live at 71 Danny Brook Road, and I've been an association member since April of '69. Somehow, it
Could
seems like,
somebody put the mic closer to Nancy,
I'm
please?
sorry.
Sure.
I'm concerned that we seem to be thinking we need to provide recreational facilities for the whole county. We're a homeowners association. We pay taxes to the county, and they're supposed to give back to us, but they don't. It seems like they think that because Ocean Pines is here, that we will accept the responsibility for providing for the northern county because they don't give us diddly squat. Now, I get my real concern is about the dog park. I understand that the dog park is going to be open to the whole world. And since we don't know who wants to come to the dog park, I should say this, that I have been a dog mother for like 46 or 7 years. And most recently, I've had 4 dogs. Don't ask why. But anyway, I spent a lot of time at the dog park. The last thing you need at a dog park is crowding. The whole purpose of having a dog park is so dogs can run around. You're going to run them over there so they can play with other dogs, you can socialize with other dog people, but they need to run. Now, we are going to have this on our land and we're going to pay for it. Why wouldn't we just sort of keep it a secret until we see who in Ocean Pines is going to use that dog park? It should be for us. Why do we have an obligation to provide a dog park for Northern County? If it turns out, just like our other amenities, if we really need people to help support it, or we have room and we can accommodate them, that's all very well and good. But this dog park thing, you have no idea where we're going with this. You don't know who's going to show up. far as what goes up and down my street near Bainbridge Park, it looks like there are more dogs than there are full-time residents. So it just seems we want to really go slowly with this and kind of ease into it. And then once we find out what our needs are, because it seems like our needs should be the most important thing. And sometimes we seem to be losing sight of the fact that we're a private group and that the county should be doing something for us instead of us doing something for the county. And I'm kind of tired of it. I've been paying association dues since I think the first payment was made in June of '69. That used to be my bathhouse and laundry right there. I live right here in this place in the summers for years and years. How did we get so turned around that we're supposed to be paying association taxes and county taxes to provide for people outside?
I don't normally react, but just let me, just to clear something up, this board has not approved or disapproved any procedures or policies over the dog park of how it will be open or not open yet. That has not been presented to the board by the general manager. There's a misunderstanding out there.
There obviously is a misunderstanding.
There's a misunderstanding that we have
Well, there
somehow
must be. Okay.
said that it's open or closed. We have not answered that question.
Okay, well, when you answer the question, I hope you will say that it's just private for now.
I just want to make sure you
Okay.
understood
No, well,
that
I really had.
we have not made that.
I had heard conflicting
We vo-
information on
We
this.
specifically voted a budgetary amount to be matched by donations, 50/50, $30,000 cap,
Yeah, I know
there to
that
raise
part.
15. Beyond that, the policies and procedures of how that's going to all be implemented is something
Okay.
Bob still has to present.
Okay, I would just like to share that,
Ed,
because
go
I've
ahead,
spent a
Bob.
lot of time in dog parks,
Okay.
and you need to go slowly, okay? Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Well, Your comment, Pete, Dave
I
first.
just like to add, Nancy, in fact, what we just talked about all this time in MO2,
That's why I'm here.
and says, actually, with or without the disagreement on the beach parking, is that our amenities are open to the public. Now, having said that, I agree with Tom, we haven't come up with the operating procedures yet. I do not believe that after passing this resolution, we will have the option, that we will specifically, unless we rewrite the resolution to accept the dog park in there to exclude other people. That doesn't mean, though, that we have to advertise it.
But
in
why is there
papers.
the feeling
And it-
that we have to provide all
And
this?
it doesn't, well, because in fact, we
We're
do.
just a neighborhood, we're private.
Okay.
But where's
Well,
this
I don't wanna get-
where's this coming from?
I appreciate
Nancy,
the passion.
Coming from speculation.
MO8 has been in existence for some 20 years. I don't know, Jim could give you the exact date if he pulled a MO8 or previous amenities resolution, which says very clearly we're open to the public. It says in our parks, we don't
We can't control it.
we don't ask for identification, or our trails,
Walking
or our
trails, that's
lakes,
different.
and all of our, and we encourage people, and have over the last few years, we've been strongly encouraging people to use our yacht club, to use our golf course, to use our tennis
We
courts.
need them.
And because we need them.
We need,
But in fact, it is our general policy, and has been, that these things are open to the rest of the public, even though they have to pay higher fees, obviously,
They should.
than we do, and they
Hold
should.
on. We're in public comment section.
Yeah, I'm
We
sorry.
kind of broke through. No, that's okay. I mean,
But I just want to point out
I
that what we
understand.
talked about all
No, that's
morning
clear. That's
is the
fine.
point, not just the dog park.
Pete, I'll let you in here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to comment. I introduced the dog park resolution. Dave Stevens amended that in several respects, each of which I approved. One specific one, you just made reference to this, that the approval was subject to various things, but Dave added very specifically subject to specific policies and procedures on the operations of it. Those have not yet been developed.
Right.
I am perplexed as to why there's an attitude out in the community, or at least Nancy Weber's opinion, that somehow we've made a decision to open it up to the public. As you said at the outset, Tom, no such decision has been made or even debated.
Yeah.
right.
And we clearly know Nancy's position on that at this
Right.
point, and we appreciate that. Any
Thank you
other
very
comments? Joe?
Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. I wasn't even going to comment on the dog park, but interesting discussion concerning what Pete just said. No discussion, no nothing. Now, unless Nancy Weber has given out false information or misinterpreted information, the general manager of Ocean Pines told an association member that the dog park had to be open to the public because of the IRS issue. I don't even want to get into that at this point, but let's say there's more going on around here than maybe even the board of directors know about. But anyway,
What's that mean?
does the GM have a contract yet? Since it's about to expire, or has expired, or very soon will?
Yes, he does.
He has a new contract
Yes,
then
he
for the
does.
coming year or whatever? Okay,
Yes, he
good.
does.
Glad to hear it. On the issue of groups using the meeting space here, the one group that hasn't been mentioned is association members in general. And association members under Maryland law have the right to use free of charge our meeting facilities, provided they're meeting to discuss association business. So if Chip or Tino and I, or any group of people, Tom, whatever, said we want to have a meeting of people, we have the right to use that facility to discuss association business. Listening to an hour and a half or so of these MO7s, Z45s, and C57s and all that, takes me back to what I said when all this started under Bill Rayco about 2 years ago. Complete waste of time for, as a practical matter. These things are debated, comma parsing, word meanings, definitions, and after it's all said and done, they're stuck in a filing cabinet back here, and the board itself doesn't pay attention to what it passes. And we just have seen yet today, and we see it almost every meeting, the board itself violating its own policies. We had a special meeting called for a special purpose, it was specified, and the meeting opens with Dave Stevens making a motion on an entirely different subject in violation of the board's own policy on agenda development and meetings. And not a single person on the board of directors even mentions it. Because I'll tell you what, if there's a copy in this room of the board's policy on board meetings, I'll donate $500 to Ocean Ponds. Somebody pull it out and show it to me. The board ignores its own policies.
And the board has every right to do that on occasion.
You're exactly right, which goes right to my initial statement that it's all useless. You hit the nail right on the head. The board does what it wants to do, despite umpteen hours of discussion about how it should operate. Let's talk about some oxymorons. Comprehensive marketing plan. I've been hearing that for 8 years or more. We've never even come close, and we never will, quite frankly, in my view. Consumer relationship management. I'm beginning to wonder if too many people on the board of directors that work for the federal government or state government. I mean, we come up with all this stuff. I mean, it's all this stuff about how management. You guys are sitting here talking, he's the general manager. By definition, he manages the place. And we're sitting around talking about, the board is about, well, should he be able to do this? Should he be able to do that? Can he do this? Can he do that? In specific circumstances about room use. Talk about a waste of time of a board of directors. The man's the manager, let him manage. If you don't like what he does, call him on a carpet for it, but don't get involved in telling him every little thing he has to do. Finally, if you think about it, this business of amenity use, the best place to live in this area may be in an area close to Ocean Pines, but not owning property in Ocean Pines, because the person who lives close to Ocean Pines doesn't have to pay assessments, and they get to use everything we have at an increased rate. But if you look at the amount of increase that an outside person has to pay, it's minimal. It's a drop in the bucket when you come right down to it, for the most part overall. So if an association member doesn't pay his dues, God forbid, he can't join the golf course. But if you don't live here, you can join the golf course. Now, an association member who doesn't pay his dues can probably go over and buy a membership in the golf course at a non-member rate, which is not that great a penalty. I mean, all this, I don't know what my point is. I'm having trouble getting my full head around everything that goes on around here. But we spend so much time talking about things that are, the word ridiculous comes to mind, but non-productive time spent.
Actually, we talk about them, you just listen.
And I'll say that, I think this board's dysfunctional. So that's about it, thank you.
Any other comments? Questions, press? Okay, I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
Motion. Wait, no, second.
Second.
2-minute break.
2-minute break.